is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you my favorite weird news stories from the past few days. Now, starting us off this week, Dumbo is moving into the Sri Lankan hotel. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dumbo. One of my favorite movies, completely butchered by the remake, in my humble opinion. So what's happened in this news story is that a wild elephant has been filmed enjoying a stay in a hotel in Sri Lanka. The elephant, named Nadakota, meaning short tail, how cute, is a regular to the Jetwing Yala Hotel on the island's southeast coast. So he lives in the grounds, and from time to time makes his way inside, where he seems completely unfazed by his surroundings. So this footage was uploaded to Twitter, a couple of days ago. And the Twitter video reads, "Woke up to a text from my mom about how a wild elephant went into a Sri Lankan hotel and gently wandered around while poking stuff with his trunk." It's not clear when the footage was taken, but this is something that's been uploaded before. Several videos have caught the same elephant, and I actually, it's not available anymore, which is a bit of a shame, but that is cool. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So they said, please note that though he's a regular visitor, he's still a wild elephant and will remain as such. While it is exciting and memorable to encounter wild animals in and around our hotels, we humbly request that guests respect their space and maintain a healthy distance at all times. Please avoid feeding the animals and refrain from using flash photography. The hotel is located in a dune where many wild animals live. They've not fenced off the complex, so animals are regular visitors to the grounds where guests can see them. I mean, it would be pretty incredible to see these elephants walking around like inside a hotel. Although I'm not really sure why they need a hotel stay. Maybe they're on vacation, you know? Elephants need vacations too. And like, they probably feel like celebrities over there. You know, like people go to certain places to see animals like this, right? So they probably feel like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. Oh, paparazzi at it again, taking a video of me just having a little jaunt around my hotel. I wonder what they think hotels are, you know? Like they're these like massive like buildings that house all of these people. They're probably like looking around for like the source of the people. Like, where are they all coming from? What's going on? I think this definitely would make me want to stay in this hotel. I don't know about you. Would you want to? Yeah? I don't know. What do you think? Would you want to see that? Would you want to go stay in a hotel with an elephant, or would that scare you? You know how elephants are scared of mice? How do they feel about people? I don't know. I've never encountered an elephant. I can't say that I've ever run into one, hotel or otherwise. So, in response to the video, A common theme was, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Classic. A classic hilarious line. One Twitter user said, waiting for the bellboy to step in and ask if he would like help with his trunk. Ba-doom. Hilarious. Another said, I love the way he's just exploring it. And when he touched the lamp, I was like, oops. Tried to fix it and walked off. I love elephants. Others wondered how many stars Nadakota would give if they gave a review. I love the idea of this thing just kind of like walking around this thing. That's horrible. This elephant just coming in and walking around and exploring everything and touching everything. And just checking things out, you know? Like a real life Tantor. Tantor? You know the elephant from Tarzan. I've always thought that was the cutest little thing in the world. This is also not the first elephant story that I saw this week. This is sort of a frequent one. I don't know if you listened to the previous episode. I was talking about the elephants in Russia that were there for a circus, and they kind of escaped to wander around and play in the snow. Well, I guess they're not used to snow, right? It's an elephant. Of course they're not used to snow. I just love the idea of these huge animals like frolicking and running around. Yeah, it's very sweet. Kind of sounds like a real live Jumanji, another remake of a movie that I thought was disappointing. Was anybody else disappointed by that Jumanji? I don't know. I remember Jumanji. Actually, I remember being really scared of Jumanji when I was a child. Just being really horrified of this, the idea that like these animals and things like jumping out into like my living room. And this is a real example of that. A real live example of huge animals coming out into real life. Like Night at the Museum with all those things waking up. You know, has anybody been to the Natural History Museum in New York? I definitely felt like they were going to come to life. It's really scary how close to alive they look. You know, even their eyes seem like they're ready to go. So what do you think? Would you stay at this hotel just to catch a glimpse of the elephants, or would you maintain a very safe distance? Well, what do you think? Are you intrigued or horrified of being Mufasa'd? That is awful of me to say. All right, you tell me. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a crow that was wreaking havoc on a parking lot, or the sequel to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, when we return.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right. Welcome back. Before the break, we talked about an elephant invasion in a hotel. And now, in other weird animal news, a crow named George vandalizes the windscreen wipers of 20 cars. Yeah, a crow is vandalizing cars in a parking lot in the UK. Office workers are not sure what to do about a pesky crow who's vandalized 20 of their cars. 2-0. They're having to cover up their windscreen wipers with tarpaulin and blankets to stop the crow. Just fantastic image, isn't it? Like people having to completely barricade their cars away from this like little menacing crow, who I can only imagine is vandalizing everything, in retaliation for them trying to keep them away from their crops, You scare me, I scare you, scarecrows. Anyway. So they've named this crow George. He began his campaign of destruction last year in November. And since then, more than a dozen people have come back to their cars to find some significant damage on each of them. It's happening outside Greenfields Community Housing in Baintree, Essex. George is thought to have struck a nearby village as well. This fugitive, he's on the run, he's on the loose, watch out for him. A member of staff here, Amanda Bivani, told the BBC he's attacked about 20 cars. And even though we've tried to shoo him away, he'll come back as soon as your back is turned. Dun, dun, dun. We're looking for a long-term solution to deter George. We just want to keep him and his friends here, but it is becoming a bit of a problem. Yeah, I'll say. That's a lot of cars to vandalize. So the office installed 2 owl figures to the top of its office roof and fitted its hawk-shaped kite named Chesney Hawk in the middle of its car parking lot for us over on this side of the sea. It's hoped the bird figures will deter George from ripping off any more windscreen wipers. The housing group has since issued an appeal to the public to come up with a long-term solution which will stop staff cars from being attacked. Yeah. So one of George's victims said in an interview, "At the moment, we're just winging it with these attempts and solutions, and I'm hoping for some suggestions, something more substantial that we could do. We welcome any ideas to deter George from committing antisocial behavior whilst remaining comfortable in his home." What do we think about this vandal crow? Do we think he's a menace to society? Or do we think he just wants love and is acting out against humans that have villainized crows since the movie Birds in the 30s? Kind of sad when you think about it that way, isn't it? Okay. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about a possibility of Bigfoot being spotted in Washington. That's when we return from the break. So don't go anywhere.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. So before the break, we talked about a criminal crow. And now, Sasquatch sighting. A traffic cam may have caught Bigfoot. Maybe. We'll dive into this a little bit. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Bigfoot, what you think it is, was, could be. But before we get to that, so this image, right, was captured at Sherman Pass in a remote part of Washington. Possible Bigfoot sighting in an unlikely place. The Washington State Department of Transportation posted a curious image of what appears to be a person or Sasquatch, or just something with a very humanoid shape, off a highway at Sherman Pass in the state's remote northeast corner. The first tweet reads, "Sasquatch spotted. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious." Have you noticed something strange on our Sherman Pass webcam before? If you look closely, by the tree on the left, there looks to be something that might be Sasquatch. We'll leave it up to you. The department's plow stopped in the area, but Bigfoot, if he had been there, or she, case 2020, Bigfoot could be a woman, had bugged out by the time the crews arrived. A follow-up tweet. We made it back from Sherman Pass, made several passes, and even stopped at the top of the summit near the camera to see if we could find Sasquatch. No such luck. It was a beautiful drive with the crews as they cleared snow. So at first glance, it looks like the Sasquatch might have been just like a combination of trees and light. And there was actually a screenshot earlier in the month that also showed something that was kind of Sasquatch-shaped in the same spot. It's hard to tell because of all the snow and such at this time of year. Older screenshots, however, don't seem to reveal anything suspicious in the location. The department promised there would be more to the story in the future. Another tweet from them reads, "It's 100% not a tree trunk. It has a story that will be revealed in February when we do our quarterly check of the camera." In other words, the truth is out there, but you gotta wait for it, as all good things take time. In the meantime, whoever's running the department's Twitter for the highway at the pass in the northwestern part of the state, not far from Seattle, shared a footage of a person walking through the snow. Or was it Bigfoot? What do you think? I think it's interesting that in this day and age we're still having this Bigfoot debate. I feel like a lot of things can be doctored nowadays, including CCTV. But then it's like, who do we believe? Do we believe footage? Or are we so jaded that we think everything has been doctored these days? Obviously, I do. I've just said that. It's weird. It's a weird one. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist myself. I just report on them. So you guys tell me, what do you think? Do you think Bigfoot's out there? Do you think Nessie's out there? Do you think these are things that exist? Do you think they're leftovers from our prehistoric past? Are they dinos? Or is it just a person in a bear suit or monkey suit? When we return, we talk more monsters. But this time it's real monsters. It's mummies. We're talking about mummies. We're talking about some new advancements in mummy research when we return.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
right, welcome back. So before the break, we talked about a myth that might be real. But now, another monster that's not actually a monster. Scientists recreate the sound of a 3,000-year-old Egyptian mummy. Do we think that this was an advancement that we needed? Do we think this is something that we needed to hear? This will really enhance your nightmares from now on. So researchers have recreated the vocal tract of an Egyptian priest named Nezium using medical scanners, 3D printing, and an electronic larynx. Yeah, so just in case you're not scared enough of these ancient, embalmed beings, researchers say that they've mimicked the voice of this mummy by recreation in a published paper Thursday by the scientific journal Reports. Authors say that the technique allowed them to produce a single sound, somewhere between the vowels in bed and bad. The ear tone is unlikely to be precise reflection of the speech, because obviously the tongue has lost its bulk over being dead for 3 millennia. 3 millennia. 3,000 years this thing's been dead. Lost a lot of its bulk. We've made a faithful sound for its track in its current position, but we wouldn't expect the exact same speech match given his tongue state, said co-author David M. Howard of London's Royal Holloway College. The model alone isn't enough to synthesize whole words or speech, the author said, noting that this would require the ability to calculate the audio output from the vocal tract as its shape is being changed. This is something. It's being worked on, so it could be possible one day, said Howard. Rudolf Hagen, an ear, nose, and throat expert at the University Hospital of Würzburg, Germany, who specializes in thorax reconstruction and wasn't involved in the study, expressed skepticism. I, for one, agree with the skepticism. I mean, it's like that thing when they recreated what Jane Austen would have looked like based on renditions of portraits of her likeness. First of all, a lot of them are of her, like she painted them herself. And, I mean, they didn't have, like, the best mirrors back then. You know, everything was kind of, like, warped and such. And then they produced some sounds from her as well, like what she would have sounded like based on the facial structure and bone structure that they created from paintings. And it's just like, this is a lot of separation. You know, like you're asking us to suspend a lot of disbelief here. You're asking us, like you're going through a lot of stages. I would like to see what this vocal reconstruction sounds like with a more recent body. You know, like if they tried it on like Winston Churchill, and then we could like listen to the rendition, like what the rendition sounds like, and like compare it back to tapes of Winston Churchill and be like, okay, this is, you know, either true or false. I think that would convince me. That would make me less skeptical. So Rudolf Hagen says, even cutting-edge medicine struggles to give living people without a thorax a normal voice, he said. Yeah, so, right. So what I was saying, you know, even that's like a little bit, you gotta suspend your disbelief. Co-author John Schofield, an archaeologist at the University of York, said the technique could be used to help people interpret historical heritage. That would be pretty incredible if we were able to kind of piece together bits of history that we haven't been able to before. When visitors encounter the past, it is usually a visual encounter, says Schofield. With this voice, we can change that and make the encounter more multidimensional. See, that I agree with. I would like, like it really immerses you in a world when you're able to kind of hear things and see things. Like like a historical reenactment, kind of makes you understand time periods and experiences better than just kind of seeing it and reading it, if you're that way inclined. He goes on to say, there is nothing more personal than someone's voice. So we think that hearing a voice from so long ago will be an unforgettable experience, making heritage places like Karnak, the temple, come alive, he said. Yeah. Okay, I see that. Do you guys feel like you know me more personally because you know my voice? I guess that's sort of weird. You guys have no idea what I look like unless you read the information pack on this podcast. Then you would see my little headshot. But otherwise, you don't know what I look like. And that's sort of weird. Actually, that's true of myself. I have some favorite podcasters that I listen to that I genuinely have no idea what they look like. And I wonder how that would change. I wonder if it would change your opinion of me. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Who knows? When we return, is technology trying to kill us? Maybe. We look at a story about the Waze app going awry when we return.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, welcome back. So when we left, we talked about the possibility of bringing monsters to life via sound. Kind of a horrifying thought, but there we have it. So now that we're back, we are going to talk about something else horrific. The Waze app directs drivers into the wilderness instead of the casino. An ad in the app's navigation app is misdirecting motorists headed to Atlantic City's Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa into New Jersey's Pine Barrens instead. Yeah. Jackson Township Police posted on Facebook that officers in recent weeks have had to help motorists who follow the directions into the Colliers Mills Wildlife Management Area where they became stuck on unpaved roads. The wildlife area is comprised of more than 12,000 acres, mainly located in Jackson and Plumstead Townships, which is about 45 miles away from the casino in Atlantic City, which is off of the expressway in Atlantic City. According to the police, the problem stems from an orange logo on the Waze app. The address in the ad is correct, but the location is pinned in the wildlife area, said the police. So this actually is like a common problem. I've experienced it myself. Personally, I've been led astray by an app gone wrong. I remember I was driving to an improv meetup in high school when GPS was fairly new. And the GPS tried to lead us directly into a lake. Luckily, the driver wasn't an idiot, so he didn't drive into the lake. But there are exceptions to this. So I thought I would give you 8 more examples of drivers who blindly followed their GPS into disaster. Number 1, in early May, a driver on the Upper West Side of Manhattan was trying to make his way to New Jersey. somewhere around 88th Street, the GPS was following, led him astray. The driver turned west, but instead of turning onto a street, his sedan headed down the first stairs of an entrance of a riverside park. The car and the driver were stuck on the stairs until a tow truck could erase the evidence of a very public wrong turn. Number 2, driving into the bay. 3 Japanese tourists in Australia used their GPS to drive to North Stradbroke Island, just off the coast of the eastern city of Brisbane. But what the machine didn't account for was the 9 miles of water dividing the island from the mainland. And the road turned into gravel, into thick mud, and then into gentle laps of water against the tires. The 3 were forced to abandon the vehicle and return on foot. Passengers aboard a passing ferry, the recommended way to get to the island, reportedly watched the whole embarrassing event unfold. The tow truck gave the poor tourists a ride back, and the car, not being worth repair, was sent to the dump. Number 3, the Sabine Morrow wanted to pick up his friend from a train station which was north of her home in Brussels, but when the GPS directions turned her south instead of north, the 67-year-old woman didn't question it. She stuck by the GPS when she saw the signs for German towns of Frankfurt and Cologne. And when the lengthy trip forced her to refuel twice, didn't even pull over to catch some shut-eye. Didn't question the machine even then. And then she entered the Croatian capital of Zagreb, and then she realized something was up. Her friend at the train station and her son also caught on and called the police. When she returned home, she said, "I admit it's a little weird, but I was distracted." Number 4. In 2009, Robert Jones' reliance on his satellite navigation system nearly got the best of him when he was driving to West Yorkshire, England. The road began to steepen and narrow, but he still plugged on. Kept insisting the path was a road, later explained, so I just trusted it. Jones only realized how wrong he was when his car got bumped against a thin wire fence just inches from a 100-foot drop, and he managed to get out safely. The car remained balanced on an edge. Took a recovery team 9 hours to haul the cart away, and Jones was given court citation for driving without care and attention. Number 6, running straight into a house. Early one foggy morning on 2011, father was driving his wife and 2 kids through South New Brunswick at a T intersection where only 2 options, left and right. The driver opted instead to follow his GPS and go straight. He missed the initial stop sign, ran over the lip of a curb, and continued for another 100 feet before hitting a house. Unfortunately, the 2 passengers who were not wearing seatbelts were taken to a hospital. This stuff really happens, a police spokesman remarked. Number 7. In 2007, 37-year-old German truck driver let his GPS guide him into a Swiss factory where he was meant to deliver his cargo, but instead of heeding to the no-entry warning signs, which should have deterred him, the driver followed the sound of the female voice until the truck ended up wedged in a cradle of a cherry tree. The truck was stuck fast, and the driver couldn't reverse. Local officials eventually had to chop down the branches of the tree to get the truck out. And number 8. Veering into a sandpit. GPS often can't account for changes like construction, but that's why drivers have eyes and ideally wits. Unfortunately, one of the other is also missing for the German couple driving in Hamburg. In 2006, the 80-year-old driver was so dedicated to his navigation that he ignored the highway's initial closed for construction sign as well as several successive barricades until he plowed right into a sandpit. Luckily, the motorists escaped uninjured, though their egos were likely bruised. According to our earlier story, Waze is working to fix the problem, but we can't fix the problem of blind obedience. I cannot stress this enough. Do not obey technology over common sense. Think about things before you do them. When we return, I've decided to give a roundup of my favorite shower thoughts from Reddit. That's when we come back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the final break. So we're back to it. The most profound shower thoughts on Reddit this week. First up, you didn't realize all the itches you have over your body until you read this or heard this in your case. Somebody just decided blue ink pens were equally as acceptable as black, and everyone just played along. An excellent point I never thought of. You never notice how much your head weighs until you're resting it on your sleeping dog. Oh, so true. You have to tense it so much so that you're not putting too much weight on them, right? A wireless charger restricts your phone as much more than wired ones. I mean, I don't know that I agree with that one. Well, actually, that is true. Sorry, I was thinking of like a portable charger. Yeah, wireless. That is very true. It's gotta sit on there. That's a good point. There are probably tortoises still alive that saw Charles Darwin at the Galapagos Islands. I wonder what they thought of him. You would never drive that close to a car coming at speed in the opposite direction. You would if it weren't for the line of paint on the ground between you and the car. Interesting. All numbers are closer to zero than they are to infinity. Whoa, that is true. That's a true fact. Eating ice cream is portrayed as happily moment as a kid, but portrayed depressing as an adult. Oh, that's sad. That's a very good point. When did ice cream start being a sad thing? Oh, I don't like that. That's sad. One of the biggest lies in the world is that the customer is always right. Oh, big time. I feel you. I feel you guys. People born in 2012 have a decent chance of dying in the reverse of that year. Oh, weird. That one is weird, isn't it? That one is weird. If anyone was born in 2012, you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast. Not that it's inappropriate, but just go outside. Dentists study the dangers of plaque in order to receive a plaque that says that they can remove your plaque. Wow. That was a lot. The truest example of Pavlovian conditioning is that every time you hear Pavlov, you automatically think of a dog. I love that one so much. The moon is the most amount of land humans will ever see at once. Interesting. Although only a select form of humans will see it up close and personal. Not all of us can be astronauts. As an adult, having a boring desk job is seen as a bad thing, but we force children to have a boring desk job for 12 plus years. Oh, so true. Poor little tiny humans. As an adult, there's nothing stopping you from turning your house into a giant blanket fort at will. I'm doing that right now. I'm sitting under a blanket. It must be hard for dragons to blow out candles. Oh, sad. The scariest fireworks are the ones that don't explode. UFOs may actually be tourists carrying cruise ships from the future. That's a scary thought. Being able to read minds would actually suck, since most people you would just hear the same 5 seconds of a song playing on a loop. If it wasn't for their fame, Harry, Ron, and Hermione probably wouldn't have gotten jobs since they didn't attend that last year of school and didn't take their leaving exams. Excellent point. That is fameism. There's a point in childhood where you stop getting praised for long sleeps and start getting chastised for them. Oh, yeah. Yeah, stop telling me I sleep in too much. Sometimes wonder if the CEOs of Coca-Cola and Mentos are friends in real life. Like that one a lot. And here's an eerie one to leave you on. You are not actually afraid of being alone in the woods or the dark. You're afraid that you're not alone. And on that note, thank you for listening to the Weird Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please remember to subscribe and write a nice review and rate the episode. It really helps us. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much and have a great night.